If every day in sales feels like a battle between you and your clients, you aren't alone. But at some point, you need to stop the fight and figure out how to work with difficult people. Today, we'll discuss how to use AI to reclaim your mental energy. And I'll give you 3 specific things you can do today to navigate your relationship with difficult clients. Welcome to Sales Zen, the podcast for media and ad tech sales professionals who are tired of the never-ending numbers game. We drop the hustle culture noise to talk about what it actually takes to build a high-performing career, master AI transformation, and separate from outcomes without sacrificing your authentic self. If you're new here, hey, I'm Kevin Curry. I've spent 30 years in media and ad tech sales, moving from individual contributor to leadership at companies like Meta, Yelp, and in the NFL with the Detroit Lions. I hold Gen AI certifications from both Google and Stanford University, but my focus isn't on the technology. It's on the human being using it. I work directly with ad sales teams, leaders, and reps to master client psychology, up-level enterprise sales skills, and navigate career growth by leveraging AI and communication skills to achieve authentic alignment and true sales zen. I know it may not feel this way, but difficult clients aren't actually hostile. They are deeply terrified of making a catastrophic career-ending decision. They are people, and like all of us, insecurities drive personality. Trying to handle objections or push through resistance with standard corporate tactics only escalates the friction and burns you out. Enterprise buyers exhibit difficult behavior, micromanagement, sudden hostility, moving the goalposts, as soon as their internal organizational pressure spikes. And we typically don't know what that pressure stems from. It could be their job is on the line. It could be a very difficult manager or unattainable goals. Whatever the case is, the automated seller reacts defensively. They send out boilerplate ROI decks or try to debate the client into submission using scripted closing techniques. The sales end partner decouples from the emotional surface noise. They lower the buyer's cognitive load and they name the unspoken organizational risk in the room. My very first job out of college was selling advertising. And the first client I worked with to this day is the most difficult person I ever worked with. He owned a home improvement business. His goal was to essentially double his business so he could bring his son on board as a partner. I got an inbound lead, which, yes, that's something that actually used to happen in advertising sales. And I booked a meeting with the client. It happened to be at his house. That's where he ran his business out of. I show up 9 a.m., knock on the door. All of a sudden, a giant Rottweiler jumps on the door and continues to bark at me. I'm terrified at this point. And then his wife shows up, robe, slippers, drinking coffee, pulls the dog back and invites me in. My heart's already racing and I haven't even met the client yet. And again, this is the first meeting I've ever had working for this company, selling this advertising, and truthfully, in my adult life. I get inside, the wife tells me to sit down at the kitchen table. There I am sitting there, Rottweiler sitting next to me, drooling, staring, growling. This giant dude walks in, introduces himself, crushes my hand with his handshake, and says, "How can you help me double my business? I need to know." So I start to go down the value proposition story, which he wants no part of. He interrupts me and says, "Nope, this is what I want to do." He had done enough research that he knew the product and said exactly where he thought he should be advertising. Now, I'd done a lot of research before this, although this was my first call. I knew our product inside and out. And before this meeting, I understood where his competitors were and what success they were seeing. So I pushed back a little bit on it, and he told me, "Nope, this is what we're doing. This is my plan. Here's my budget. Go make it happen." As I headed down the driveway to get back in my car, he opened the door and said, "If this doesn't work, I'm going to sick my dog on you." I went back to the office completely terrified. I wrote up the order and I made it happen just like he wanted. The advertising ran on Sunday. I came into the office on Monday morning to multiple voicemails on my office line, each one getting angrier than the next from the client. How a friend of his never saw the ad. How he didn't receive a single phone call off this ad. How he didn't believe that I even did what I said I was going to do. And the final one, "If I ever see you again, I will shoot you. I can't make this stuff up." Now, this is the late 90s, so we put up with a lot more than we do today. I paced the floor, talked to my sales manager, talked to some coworkers, and finally got enough courage up to call him back. I let him vent for what seemed like hours, although it was probably 2-3 minutes. Again, a couple death threats sprinkled in just for fun. And I told him I had the right recommendation for him and he needed to give me one more shot. Now, I got to be honest with you. Looking back, I should have just walked away or reported him to the police. Again, late 90s, I was going to close this deal. So I scheduled the next meeting with him to set everything up. While I don't recommend you just taking a death threat lightly or even having someone sick, what looked to be a killer dog on you lightly, there are some things that you can do today. First, you can use AI. You can delegate that prep work to understand the psychology. What's driving this anger? Use the RIGS framework, role, instruction, guardrail, specifics. Input all of your client communications, all of your meeting notes, earnings calls, internal and external information you have on the business, the team, and that person specifically. Next, extract the underlying drivers. Have AI surface the client's internal pressures, recent corporate shifts, reoccurring complaint themes, so you don't have to read through hours and hours of back and forth emails. The goal here is to reclaim your mental energy. By offloading that administrative analysis, you free up your emotional energy to stay completely grounded and observant during the high-stakes human interactions. So after you've solved for the why using AI, here's 3 things you can do today. First, use empathy to surface the fear directly. Something like, it sounds like if the campaign underperforms by even 5%, leadership is going to question the entire shift. Second, protect your energy by establishing clear operational agreements. Who does what by when? Hold the client and yourself accountable. And the third is detach from the outcome. Focus entirely on controlling your presence and process. Remove the desperate energy that triggers defensive buyers. So back to that home improvement client. I went to that next meeting. Dog barked at the door, wife let me in, robe and slippers, coffee in hand. Big guy crushed my hand with his handshake. And he stared me in the eyes and said, "I can't believe I let you into my house. You have no idea what you're doing." Again, completely ignorant to the entire situation, I went into my recommendation. I had a ton of confidence in what I was recommending. His competitors were doing this. I talked to their reps. They were seeing a ton of success. I talked him off the ledge a little, and he agreed to try my recommendation. It was kind of a crawl, walk, run approach, but we got there. I left, his ads ran, and this phone rang off the hook. He generated more leads from one ad with me than he ever had in the entirety of his business. He ended up being my quota-making client, the biggest one. He ran every single week with us for an entire year. I don't know where he is today. I don't know how it worked out, if his son ended up coming into the business or not. But by transforming the conflict into authentic alignment, I was able to turn the high-friction relationship into my most loyal account. When you navigate organizational pressures alongside your client, you stop being a vendor and start becoming a strategic advisor. That's it for this episode of the Sales Zen podcast. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one, and check out saleszenmedia.com to see how we can work together to build authentic alignment for your ad sales team.